I am on mute. Sorry. Okay. Hello, Sawadee and Namaste. Apologies for that. Welcome to our Indian weddings after lockdown. And this webinar will run for 1 hour. We are recording it and it's also being broadcast live on Facebook. The goals and objectives of the webinar are to share our views and ideas on the state of our industry, the Indian weddings industry. What's the way forward? What are the challenges that we have at the moment, as we know, and are there any solutions? I've got a great panel lined up where we're going to go to our panelists shortly. And there's also an invisible lady behind the scenes managing the webinar, Sumi at the Phuket Hotels Association, and she's also with Delivering Asia Communications. So she's making this webinar happen today. Will Thailand's success story as a destination for Indian weddings end with a happy ending? That's why we called this webinar. We know there's challenges in the weddings market during the past couple of months, and we're faced with challenges as we go through the year, as we come out of lockdown. Will we see a change in our industry after lockdown? Will there be fewer Indian wedding planners around? Are they going to survive this? And what's the outlook for Thailand's weddings market? These are all questions that we're going to pose to our panelists. And as I mentioned, we've got a great panel with us today. So we have Pinki, marketing representative from the Tourism Authority of Thailand over there in India. Parthip is founder and CEO of WeddingSutra.com, the go-to platform for everything involving Indian weddings and destination celebrations. Then we have Neha, who's founder of Foreign Wedding Planners, a great ambassador for Thailand and Indian weddings and a very good supporter of the kingdom. Sally is our local wedding planner and go-to lady and a real guru when it comes to planning weddings in Thailand. Sally is managing director of Mantra Events. And then we've got Ranjeet, who is commercial director of Hilton Phuket Arcadia, and I'm on his panel for Indian wedding planning at the Phuket Hotel Association. How this webinar is going to work, I've given each of the panelists 3 minutes to share their views and given an introduction to themselves and hopefully some solutions maybe of where we're going. And after each of the panelists has had 3 minutes, we'll then do a deep dive into the Q&A, as I've got a lot of questions here. And we do have a questions facility. So if anybody has questions, please fire them away, and we may even bring you online onto the webinar. First, I'd like to go to Pinki and ask her to give us a 3-minute introduction. And I've got some slides here for Pinki as well. So let me just call up Pinki's slides as I'm managing
Thank you, David.
Thank you
for inviting me to be part of this webinar. Sawadee ka and namaste. The topic weddings is very close to my heart. As around 15 years ago, we started to work on this segment. And during those days, if the bride and the groom were from different cities, either side would travel to the other city for the wedding ceremony. Not just the immediate family, but lots of relatives and friends also. Can we have the next slide, please? So at that time, Indian economy was doing very well. There was a lot of disposable income. Destination weddings within India had started. Spending on weddings was going up. There was also desire of people to outdo each other. Each one wanted to make their weddings more special. So we figured out, if people can travel to another city, why not to Thailand? As you're probably aware, that traveling from Delhi to Goa or Kerala takes almost the same time as traveling to Bangkok. Can we have the next slide, please? So what was required in Thailand was to create an atmosphere for the Indian weddings and provide all the services necessary for the weddings. These included Panditji or the priest, mandap setup, mehndi artist, Indian food, horse, elephant, dholwala, the drummers, as dancing is a must in the Indian weddings during Bharat. So next, no, I think that's not the slide. The one before that. Sorry, the slide before this. Yes, I'm still on this slide. So once this was in place, Highland would become an automatic choice and the time experience for them, lifetime experience, considering its beautiful locations, 2 to 4 hours traveling time from any city in India to Thailand, world-class hotels, resorts, so reasonable yet very affordable, and excellent infrastructure, traditional value, similar culture, and then other attractions for the guests, such as shopping, spas, and of course, the most important thing was the Thai hospitality. So the first thing we did was to create awareness of how Thailand's beaches, beach cities could be ideal for Indian weddings. We did a personalized direct mailing, pan-India to consumers with an invitation from TAT governor, inviting them to hold weddings in Thailand. We'd also given a rough estimate of the cost of weddings as in Thailand as well. And then there was no looking back. At that time, the concept of wedding planners must have just started. Phuket was the first destination where Indian weddings had started to take place. Since Phuket hotels had Indians working, it became easier for the hotels to understand the concept of weddings. So I'll quickly go through it. I know, David, we just have 3 minutes. So this is just to show you that, around 400 weddings took place in Thailand probably last year. And average is about 250 packs and it can go up to 800. And the spend of each wedding is approximately from 10 to 30 million baht. And revenue generated from this segment is around estimated to be around 4,000 million baht. Next slide, please. So not only weddings, but celebrations such as anniversary parties, birthday reunions, graduation parties, bachelor, bachelorette, all these groups may be smaller, but there are many, many of them. So the next slide, please. I'll just go through this quickly. These are some of the things that TAT has been doing. For example, this is a coffee table book that we've been producing. This is for the wedding planners in India, and it gives all information about how to do a wedding in Thailand. Then we are also doing some advertising. Next slide, and next slide, please. Yeah, these are some of the ads that we've been doing. And of course, then the next slide, we're also giving some incentives to the wedding planners and to the host families. Like we give cultural performance and garlands, and to the wedding planner, we're giving return ticket and also certificate to the wedding planners who qualify and have gone through the training. And this certificate is a Thailand specialist that we've been giving. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Great. Thank you, Pinki. I have to say, TAT have done a wonderful job, and I don't think that the kingdom would be where it is today as one of the top 3 destinations for Indian weddings without the Tourism Authority of Thailand's support over the past decade and a half. So keep up the great work, Pinki, and all the team over there in India. I'd now like to move on to Parthip, our go-to man with WeddingSutra, and you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, David. Before we start the slide presentation, I'd like to share with everybody a small story. This is something I've heard, and there's, of course, maybe if you'd like, added a little element of the little wedding drama to it. It was a resort in Phuket where there was a senior TAT official who was there at the lobby, and he saw these whole group of Indians there, and he just got talking to one of the individuals there, and he said, this man said, "I'm here. We're all here in Phuket for a family holiday." He looked at all of them. He says, "You mean to say all of you are part of one family? That's about 30 of you." So this gentleman replied, said, "Oh, you know what? This is just 1/3 of my family, and then you have to see you have to really come back to India to see one of our weddings and see the number of family members who are there at one wedding." So this official replied, "Hey, why don't you come and have a wedding in Phuket?" Immediately, the gentleman who was there with his wife looked at him and said, Yes, that's a nice idea. We love Phuket, we love Thailand, but how will you communicate to all our people who are so demanding, and how will the people talk to them? So this official just smiled. And then the lady said, you know what? When we tell, immediately the lady replied. She says, oh, even also for a lot of these people, when you say we are going on a holiday to Thailand, people just wonder what we're going there for. So here was a very dynamic official. He said, so what if we can't communicate in your language, in Hindi? We are the land of smiles. Our smiles will do the talking. And all of you will come here, and I will make sure that all my resorts are well equipped to handle not an Indian wedding, but a big Indian wedding. Since then, there's been no looking back. Thailand has hosted more number of weddings than any other international destination. And everybody looks up to TAT for ideas, insights, and information on how they grow the how they grow the Indian wedding segment. Can we start with the slides right now, since we don't have much time? So there's no text in my presentation. All I want to say is that here are some visuals which share with you the story of how Thailand has been sought after as a destination among different profile families. You can run through it. From traditional families, be they the Reddys of Hyderabad, or the Tamilians from Chennai, the Marwadis from Rajasthan, they all feel that the resorts, each of the resorts in Thailand, are well equipped, competent to manage the most awaited affair in their family. Not just traditional family, couples who've traveled all over the world have chosen to get married in Phuket, Krabi, Hua Hin, Rayong, Pattaya, and of course Hua Hin. And of course, fashion-forward brides. There was a time when a lot of hotels invested in photo shoots to promote their location. And after, say, they've seen the visuals on WeddingSutra, they figure that this is indeed the best promotion for their resort. Imagine there's a bride and the bridesmaids who are sharing photos on Instagram all day, and all their friends are seeing where the guests have checked into. And then, even if it's not a wedding, it's a resort they want to stay at during their next wedding in Thailand, during their next holiday in Thailand. So my presentation really tells you about how different profiles families have chosen to come to Thailand, and then how the imagery has really worked well for the resorts as well as the destination. Thank you, David.
Fantastic. Thank you, Parthip, for that overview. Very insightful. I'd now like to move to Neha from Foreign Wedding Planners, who's sent many Indian weddings and managed many Indian weddings in Thailand. And you've got 3 minutes, Neha, for your overview and update.
Hi, everyone. This is Neha from Foreign Wedding Planners. I'm going to talk about Thailand, of course, and the wedding market. But before I start, I think we all need to know this, that not only did we start with our first wedding from Thailand. Thailand brought the wedding planner out of us, but also that I myself got married in Thailand. So that is how close it is to my heart that I myself went and got married in Thailand when the chance came. Okay, so I think there is no other destination like Thailand. We began with a company name called Foreign Wedding Planners, with the hope that we are going to expand to many other countries. But we have always been known as the planners for Thailand. So just to talk basically about some of the challenges that our industry has faced while you go through some of the beautiful work that we have done in the past. There is a lot of unprecedented confusion over the pandemic that has that is ongoing right now, leading to a big shift in the economy and the subsequent change in the mind of the consumer, because the expectation and everything is set for a change. Millions of workers and the wedding industry professionals and the companies are facing a huge risk, even if it's an indirect industry like an aviation industry, or we talk about tourism or hospitality. Everyone is facing a huge and acute a situation right now, and we don't know how the times are going to be in future. Weddings have stopped abruptly. Clients have shifted their weddings to other destinations. Some of them have postponed. There is a phenomena called virtual weddings for people who have not been able to change the dates, and they still want to go ahead with it. So there is a lot that we are seeing, and we don't know what is going to happen ahead. I think primarily because of the new normal anticipation. Now, what is this new normal going to be like? None of us can really predict, but this is how we see it. I have a couple of points that I have in mind. Wedding and celebrations are eventually going to resume. So whatever has stopped is actually going to resume soon. Only the size and the spend that the families are going to be incurring is going to see a drastic change. Virtual weddings will happen for a while, but I don't see it as something that's going to stick along for a very long time, because Indian weddings, like you know, is all about fun and human touch and personal emotions. And that is not something a virtual wedding can give you. But yes, virtual wedding may happen, and a bigger celebration might happen at the end of it. So that can possibly be the main thing. But I think majorly the couples and the families are going to wait for the right time for the lockdown to open, for them to feel safer, comfortable, in order to, actually go to Thailand. There's no substitute to doing a Thailand wedding. That is what I feel for most of the people. Intimate weddings at homes, small farms, private villas on rent. This is something that could see a huge increase. People might come back to inviting only a handful of people. And even if the ban is lifted of 50 or 20 or whatever is the ban at the moment in different states, I still feel that intimate wedding is here to stay. People are going to really focus a lot more on inviting only the very close people. There is going to be a huge dilemma over the hotel prices, the vendors, the contracts, the clauses in it. And I think there is a lot of clarity needed. So that is something that is in the mind of both the families as well as the consumers. And one more point that I have, that focus might shift from the grandeur to the personal touches when, the spend is going to become smaller, and, people are going to focus more on the experience rather than, just the flamboyance and the whole hoo-ha about the, display of wealth. So that is what is my anticipation for the times ahead.
Great, thank you, Neha.
Thank you.
Moving on swiftly, I'm going to ask Sally to give us a 3-minute snapshot of how she sees the market from the local perspective as a Thailand-based wedding planner. We'll move out of the slides now and go to Sally. Let's unmute you. I think, Sally, can you unmute yourself? Can you click unmute? That's it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, David, for the lovely introduction. I would like to share a little bit about myself, my journey leading up to as a wedding planner. My career has always been in the creative side in terms of arts and design. I did my degree in fashion design from FIT. I was doing uniform designing at one point in Hong Kong for hotels. And eventually I started the wedding planning business in 2014, earlier working with another wedding company for about 7 years. And now I'm basically a founder and managing director of my own company, Mantra Events. I'm just gonna ask you to put on some slides and just show a few of the work that I've done with my team at this point.
Okay, hold on. Let me call up those slides. So these are visuals of previous weddings that
Some
you've
of,
had.
yes, some of the weddings. I've done, I don't know how many weddings, it's been many years. Of course, each wedding comes with blessings and challenges. And today I'm going to be talking about the challenge that I faced earlier this year, and I'm sure a lot of wedding planners faced as well. 2020 started off amazing. You know, we had weddings outlined, planned, ready to execute, and tons of inquiries coming for the balance of the years. In fact, already getting started with all the nitty-gritty details as well. And suddenly come February, everything stopped. All phone calls came in and asking about the pandemic situation in Thailand. At that point in time, I think we were very positive. Oh, it's just, you know, it'll get contained, we'll get okay. And of course, everything just worsened in a radical way. Once the pandemic worsens, we initially spent all the efforts assisting all the clients with first downsizing. Couple of days later became another downscaling. Then we decided to change the dates. And then eventually came the cancellation. With all this, it wasn't just one client. It was about several clients back and forth with each one of them. And the major thing that came into play was a force majeure. And that was something that just created havoc because nobody actually understood what that actually meant.
Great. I'm going to hold you on that point.
Okay.
We're going to come on to about the contracts and force majeure later.
Right.
I'm now going to move on to Ranjeet. Thank you for the 3 minutes, Sally. Let's move on to Ranjeet now. Commercial Director, Hilton Phuket Arcadia. What do you have to say to us, Ranjeet? How's it looking down in Phuket?
Oh, everything's looking great. The sun is almost shining. But thank you, David, for this opportunity. I come from a revenue background. So I'm going to give you a little bit of numbers. So if you didn't know, you're going to know it today. The Indian wedding business is a $50 billion, that's a billion with a B, annually, growing at a rate of 20%. They say that Indian weddings are recession-proof. COVID-19 might have done some damage to that. What's 30? 30 is the average age of an Indian. More than half of the Indian population is below the age of 35. Now the millennials, they're transforming India's wedding industry by making it more of a year-round event rather than a seasonal one. You know, Western brands like Jimmy Choo, Armani, they're looking at opportunities of getting into the wedding business, which right now is dominated by the luxury local industries. Now destinations, weddings have long been popular among Indian couples. The destination sets the tone for celebration ahead. Thanks to Bollywood celebrities, couples look for newer off-the-chart locales. Now we know that European destinations like Italy, France, and even Turkey have been desired destinations. But remember, in the recent past, these have been hard hit by the virus. So this may lead for couples looking for destinations closer to home, maybe Asia. Now we know there's questions about social distancing. Everybody is talking about safety. Will the future be password protected live streaming, videography, altered setups? Definitely large event spaces will be key. We may see perhaps weddings becoming an active entertainment where video crews are walking around directing because half of the people are actually sitting at home and witnessing it. But really, is this what the future of Indian weddings will be? So from a hotelier's perspective, let me tell you what we can do. We wait for these restrictions to ease out. We start preparing ourselves. We first try and build confidence. Now, how do we build confidence? One is collaboration between event planners, government agencies like TAT and hotels to make sure that our audience understands that the destination is safe for them and their family. Now, we just heard something about contracting. You know, is your contracts flexible? You as a hotelier, have you looked at your wedding contract? Have you ensured that there's a little bit of flexibility for your customer? You know, don't just make your contracts be very beneficial to your organization, but also for your customers. Earlier panelists spoke about costs. This is going to play a critical role. Everybody is talking about flight costs to go double. So what's going to happen then? They're going to come and ask our hoteliers to reduce their costs. So try to figure out how you can package yourselves in a different way for the wedding market. What experiences can you put in there that's going to be a once in a lifetime that will sell to these customers? And finally, knowing your customer is absolutely key. Having someone in your team that understands this market will be vital for you in clinching that deal. Now, I must warn you, if you have never done Indian weddings as a hotelier in your property, this may not be the right time. In conclusion, there's no evidence of big fat Indian weddings being a thing of the past. Perhaps in the short time, they may not, but in my personal opinion, I think they're gonna come back.
Okay, thanks, Ranjeet. The big question is, when are they going to come back? And I'd like to do a poll to see what everybody thinks. When do you think destination weddings will resume? When are weddings going to go offshore and hopefully come back to Thailand? So we've got a poll here that I'm going to launch. And I'd like to see what everyone is thinking of when do you think destination weddings will resume? This year, 2021 or 2022? And will Indian weddings become much smaller? Okay, so at the moment, we've got 3% who think this year, sorry, 2% who think this year. No, it's gone back to 3. 78% think next year, and 19% think 2022. Will Indian weddings become much smaller? 80% say yes and 20% say no. So quite an interesting result there. So the majority think that weddings will come back next year and that they will definitely be smaller. With the issue of social distancing, and at the moment we've got to keep at least 1 meter, 6 feet away, how will that work with Indian weddings? I'm just thinking about the queue up for the buffet or the Barrett procession. You could have a Barrett procession going on for half a mile. How do we look at these logistics? Sally, what do you think?
I think it's very difficult. Our Indian weddings, like Neha had put it earlier, it's all about interaction, emotional, attachment with like bride and groom's family. We take blessings from our family members all the time. Our henna, I mean, even all our rituals. It's not something you can do virtually. It involves all the family members, and I find it very difficult for that to take place with social distancing.
Okay, Neha, what's your thought? I've unmuted you, Neha. Can you hear us?
No, I did not hear you.
Okay.
What did you say? Sorry.
With the social distancing, how are we going to work that into the Indian wedding logistics? If everyone's got to be 1 meter apart, it's just not going to work. You're going to have such a long queue for the buffet.
The whole purpose of doing a wedding itself gets defeated with this social distancing thing. That's what is my logic here, right? Brides grow up, anticipating a wedding day. They have this clear picture in their heads. They have this dream. They have, families have this huge aspiration that one day their son will get married. Even couples in love, they want to celebrate their union. And the whole thing of Indian family coming together, the whole Bollywood aspect, the whole Nach Gana dancing and all the grandeur and everything is going to take a huge hit with this social distancing norm. And this is a huge thing, actually. This is going to be a very big challenge. And I don't see that, this is going to make life any easy. People might want to wait rather than, let go of that dream altogether. That's what I feel. Nobody would want to get married with the mask on.
Could we see this lockdown and the virus as a natural disruptor to the industry? And maybe we're going into a totally new norm. We see that there's 70% more engagement online on internet worldwide during the lockdown. Does that mean we might see more virtual weddings and very few in-person weddings? I'm going to throw this to Parthip. Do you think WeddingSutra is well positioned and you might be launching into these virtual weddings?
I don't think virtual weddings and Zoom weddings are going to take off at all. We are spending all our time, on Zoom meetings all day. And if there's one thing we want to do after 6 p.m., we would after the lockdown, even if it's a small party with 10 people, or we'll just invite our friends home. Much before this virtual thing came in, Indians were very, very comfortable hosting religious celebrations or parties at home. If their home was not big enough, every neighbor's home became a part of the celebration. So what will happen is we're also tired of these Zoom meetings. What we're going to do is, if for whatever reason we can't have a big wedding, we'll have it at our home or at a venue near our home. Because it could be a small wedding with 25 people, 50 people, but we will attend the wedding of our niece, nephew, or son and daughter of our closest friend.
Okay, thank you. With the weddings and the fact that we're going through this health and safety and hygiene, is the wedding experience going to change so that guests have to pass through the thermal scanners? They may have to have a medical certificate to ensure that it's not a super spread event. Are hotels going to also implement a lot of procedures that the wedding families and wedding planners will have to work around? Ranjeet, I'm going to ask you, what's Hilton planning?
Well, look, I think all hotels are looking at new hygiene standards. You might have heard in the press, Hilton's working with the Mayo Clinic in America and the people who make Lysol and Dettol to create new hygiene standards for hotels. Now we're doing it in a way that we don't inconvenience the guests as much as possible. Yes, initially there might be a requirement that we might need to take temperatures, but we really do depend on the destination and the airline to take care of that before they put them in a plane or before they allow them to jump into a city or a destination. So most hotels in Phuket that I'm talking to, everybody's on some kind of a new program for hygiene standards. There are agencies that are coming up and giving us suggestions and solutions. The Phuket Hotels Association is doing something with a German company. But we're going to do it in a way where it is not guest facing, but the guests can still feel it, that yes, they are coming into a safer environment where they will be able to enjoy without much disruption to their normal routine.
Okay, thanks, Ranjeet. Sally, with your hampers that you place in the guest rooms for the guests,
yes,
are they going to feature hand spray, disinfectant hand spray and disinfectant wipes and masks? What's going to happen for the hampers and health and safety in the future?
for sure. I mean, we've been deliberating and talking about this several times of what changes may or may not take place. I spoke to one of the hoteliers, a smaller one, and I said, hey, what about the sanitizing of the rooms and stuff like that? And in fact, I'm going away from the hamper because the first thing is your room. And Ranjeet, I mean, this was something they said that they would make sure that they sanitize the room and they would put like a little tape that this room has been inspected. Normally somebody goes in and puts a key card and says, this room has been inspected, but this would be another reassurance for the guest to know that, right, you know, we have sanitized your room. Again, with the hampers right now, I mean, people love hampers. When I don't deliver a hamper, they ask for 1, for 2, for 3. Literally, I've sent one room, 4 hampers at a go. So this is, you know, one of those thrills that they just love and look forward to. Something like this, I think we're just going to have to see how it goes and what kind of food items we will place. Let's see. A lot of questions out there.
Yeah, that's right.
But this won't change. I think hampers will be there.
Yeah. Parthip, do you think that with these lavish Indian wedding videos, everybody has to have the best video? Do you think the guests are going to be looking like this? Are we going to have videos of guests lined up by the fabulous beach and they're all masked up? I just can't see that happening.
I think even if we were to put it up, 2 million followers on WeddingSutra will not, there are some things which we accept. If the big wedding was getting bigger, I'm sure not many people wanted it to become even bigger than bigger. There are many people who are looking forward to the trim and slim Indian wedding, but that does not mean that they're looking forward to wearing designer masks that match their lehenga and sherwani. Yes, there are times when you will have to wear the mask, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be, you're going to love getting photographed in those.
I'm going to go to Pinki. With the Tourism Authority of Thailand, this week, the new campaign globally was Amazing Trusted Thailand. Are you planning a special campaign for the Indian weddings market, specifically in India, to encourage the families back? Let's unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? That's it. No, you have to unmute. Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. What are you planning to put Thailand back on the top of the mind of our friends and families?
See, currently we've been doing a lot of, we're creating a lot of awareness about that SHA certification, because I think safety is the main priority currently. So we're doing that. And then we're also doing some activities to, to keep Thailand as a top of the mind destination. So we've been doing our regular activities like advertising and things like that. But we also, recently we just took part in a program on television, a very popular, famous program called Band Baja Bride, where, we have integration and, the program is showing the wedding destinations and all. So we are keeping ourselves in the market and just creating awareness that we're still there. Plus, the SHA certification, which we are trying to create awareness about that in the Indian market.
I'm going to come on to Neha and basically with the digital element, do you think you'll build more digital aspects into your wedding experiences?
You'll have to repeat. I'm so sorry. The connection is not very good at my end.
Okay. With the digital connection and more people online, do you think your weddings that you're planning, you'll have more digital experiences that you're building into the weddings? No, you can't hear it. Okay, we'll go over to Sally.
Yes,
Sally, do you think...
I am unable to hear.
Okay. Sally, do you think that you'll employ or you'll bring specialists in to make the experience digital?
I had a wedding last year, a huge wedding. It was 1,200 people wedding in Phuket. It was by far the largest one I did ever. And basically my client's mom couldn't attend. And that's when we did the entire event, 24 hours. It was literally live streamed for her. Wow. I think in terms of live streaming, I think it would be just for those people who are not like, perhaps elderly people who aren't able to travel, or perhaps some family members who are not coming because they can't. I mean, this may be something that would work for them, but as in to just do a live streaming, I think it's just for now, it's a trend. But I think we will need the proper videographers and cameras on board.
Okay, thank you.
To just do what they do best.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question here of over the next year, in terms of the bilateral agreement between India and Thailand, I think the first step is we need to get over this issue of visitors having to have a health certificate and insurance for COVID-19, because it's going to be pretty costly if every guest has to go and get a medical certificate and take out insurance. Do you see that as that's going to be a drawback, isn't it? Pinki, what would you like to say? Can you hear us?
Sorry, David, can you just repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just...
we want the Indian weddings coming back to Thailand. And obviously we don't want to rush. We want to do it in a proper planned way. That requires a bilateral agreement between Thailand and India, where Thailand relaxes the requirements of entry with a health certificate and COVID-19 insurance, which can be horrendously expensive. Do you think that families will bite the bullet and will get medical certificates and insurance, or are they going to wait?
I think, you know, to the families who are spending so much money and all, I don't think that would be a big issue for them, that, you know, that they would not want to spend that. However, I think the most important thing is that once, you know, like Thailand doesn't have that quarantine, you know, that's what can hinder these weddings coming to Thailand. So once that is lifted and the weddings start in India, I don't see any reasons why they should not be coming to Thailand. And also, as of you know, as you know, we are aware of that as of now, that SOP. So I think should, you know, people, I don't see why they shouldn't be coming to Thailand.
Okay, thank you for that. The hotel industry in Thailand has been given government guidelines on what we need to do through the Tourism Authority of Thailand, through Ministry of Health and various other bodies. So there's a lot of guidelines that we are now working towards when we reopen the hotels for guests and for corporate meetings. Does the Indian weddings industry, or is it planning a guide on health, safety and hygiene? Is there a guide that's being made that would be available to hotels, families, wedding planners, to give some guidance on how to maneuver through all these new hurdles? Parthip, do you think is there a guide being put together? A guidebook?
There are so many guides which we are being deluged with information. Every day some hotel is sending a guide, and all we want to know right now is, we say, please, I think if you go on giving guides, families will just get tired and just say, reach out to the hotel. If they have a wedding planner, okay. If they don't have a wedding planner, they will just say, hey, you give us a list of things, must notes and must avoids. But the more information you deluge people with, the more guide you give families, they'll say, hey, are you a hotel or a hospital? That's what they're going to respond. So you come to a hotel for good energy, you come there for a certain mood. But if you are going to be giving, if the hotels are going to give them a 50-page note, they are just saying, they're just going to say, sorry, we'll do it at home, but we don't want to go through this hassle.
Ranjeet, how do you think we balance between guest safety and the guest experience, with everybody partying and coming together, yet at the same time, the safety and hygiene requirements that hotels are being faced with? How do we balance this?
I mean, I think I agree with Parthip, is that, you know, the guest cannot be inconvenienced so much where it's going to become difficult that they don't know if they're going on a vacation for an event or they're going into a hospital. And that's why it's very, very important to look, it's not going to be the same for sure, right? You're walking outside the house today, you're doing it in a very different manner. At the moment, you're standing in a queue, maybe with that distance, all of that. So, but however, if hotels can do it as discreetly as possible, it is going to be the key in making that change. Sure, I'm not going to send a 10-page claim on, hey, this is how you got to behave when you walk into my hotel, is going to turn that customer away and say, you know what, I'd rather not go. I'd rather just stay inside, and I like quarantine life better. So hotels need to be mindful of the fact that, yes, we'll change it. The customer needs to be mindful of the fact things will be different, but as little annoyance to them as possible will be the key. Of course, the governments are supporting us with a lot of different information. How much do we pass on to the customer is really upon the hotel to do.
And one of the big things of the Indian weddings is obviously the food. I think it's more important than maybe the bride's wedding dress. Everybody talks about the food 5-10 years down the line. Where are we going with these epic buffets that the Indian weddings are so well known for. How can we logistically deliver a massive buffet and still adhere to new hygiene and safety guidelines?
Well, I think the buffet lines can't go away. If we had to do a Western style dinner where we did seated, plated food, I don't think Indians like it because they love, 10 food stations and they love to fill up their plates with everything and anything that's available. So, and that's why, in my personal opinion, it might take time. It might get shorter, like Neha and Sally said, that maybe instead of 800, there might be only 400. Big venue spaces would be very, very important in the future. So if you have that space that can take half the capacity of a regular wedding, it's going to be good. And they're going to be spread out. The lines will be there. Maybe if you come to me in January, I will tell you to have a 1 meter distance. So it might take longer, but I'll have to do 20 lines instead of 10 buffet lines.
I was talking to a hotel in Bangkok and they want to be one of the first movers to welcome back the weddings. And they were saying in the ballroom, they'll have yellow tape marked out at meter boxes that the guests stand in. And they will do lunches and dinners in bento boxes. So you'll get a box. And how are you over there? Neha, what's your thought on this? I just can't see it happening. What do you think, Neha? Would you plan a wedding like that?
Talking about the, this is something which is something which is so unprecedented. We really don't know how to react to something like this. But what I feel is that every hotel is going to try and take precautions. Yeah. And there would be clients, there would be families who would be also expecting similar kind of guidelines. But this is a bit, stretching it a bit too far of putting tapes and everything in a banquet hall. I mean, it's all about the beauty of the decoration and the whole feel of it. I think if we have something like that constantly staring at us, we will be constantly reminded of, an epidemic which just went by or, is still ongoing. So I feel that, this is not something that clients would appreciate. Maybe we can use something other than, something which is very obvious. Some invisible way of maintaining distance. Maybe we can guide our team and the hotel staff to ensure that people maintain some kind of standards. But something which is staring at you, in your face probably is not a very good idea.
Okay, good point.
May I add, David?
Yes, please.
I don't think Indians are that disciplined and, to get them to stand in lines and wait for all that. I don't think that's going to work in India at all, not with the Indians. Okay. What do you think?
But do you think there's a future for wedding planners? Because with more people online during lockdown, there can be a greater connection with the destination and with the hotels. And also price, we know, is going to be important. There's going to be a bloodbath. Hotels are going to come in initially probably with very, very low deals to win back business. Hotels are desperate. So given that pressure on price, and the families have just come through a financial challenge during lockdown as well, we're all financially impacted. Are the wedding planners going to be cut out of the equation? Do we really need a wedding planner after lockdown? Sally, do we need you?
Yes, you do. Definitely. I'm here for Keith. I think as a wedding planner, we just don't just be there at the events. We know that. We're always helping our clients from the contract, and we're there 24/7. We're their best friends. They cry on our shoulders. And honestly, when they go back, a little heart of ours goes back with them. So I think we are here to stay. I do believe, like just in any industry, basically during this adversity, there are those that will remain. There are those, perhaps new ones will come in. And then there are those that will probably move out. And like you said, it's just a very stressful times for a lot of people. But I'm here to stay. And I think Thailand will be there.
I have something to add to this, David, may I?
Yeah, please.
I really feel that intimate weddings and smaller groups need more management, frankly speaking, because you really need to, maximize whatever little you have. And people will want that very well managed. So like I said before, that people will focus more on personal experiences and smaller touches rather than flamboyance. Those personal touches and everything has to be managed. So definitely a planner is needed, because we don't only bring people together, we are actually creating that whole experience for you. So I think, yes, planners are a definite must.
Okay.
Sorry, just a little bit more. From what we've seen, also a lot of detailings are coming into picture. So basically it'll get smaller. The budget may remain the same, but perhaps quality versus quantity is what we're going to be looking at. Yeah.
Yes.
But I want to ask Parthip a question, because if I was planning a wedding, do I need these ladies? Because your site is so rich with information, can I not plan a wedding with all the information on WeddingSutra without using a wedding planner, whoever they are?
You know, the more inspiration and information there is on WeddingSutra, the more there is the need for Neha and Sally to make the dream a reality. So the more the more time the bride spends on WeddingSutra, the more she gets dreamy and the more she wants the details, and therefore she is more dependent on Neha. Having said that, since I'm not a wedding planner, and I think I could probably give a little different perspective, you know, what's happening in India is something which has never happened before, because the weddings has always been seen as a recession-proof business.
Yes.
But the planners who will survive are those who can adapt best. And now with so many SOPs coming in, for the families who want to have a destination wedding abroad, they will need a planner like Neha, whose focus is a particular destination, not somebody who's planning a wedding in Rajasthan one day and Thailand next day and Middle East another day. It's about a planner who understands the destination, or a planner who's based in that destination to help with the paperwork, whether it is the hotel contracts, insurance, and all the travel related formalities, which their own family office or family members may not be competent enough to handle. So yes, to answer your question, there will be a lot of shake-up in this industry, and only the fittest and the ones who adapt themselves to the new normal will survive.
So I'm going to ask a final question to each of you. If it's survival of the fittest and those that adapt, is Thailand fit and adaptable to stay #1 or top 3 destination for Indian weddings within the next 5 years? Once we get over this, in 5 years' time, when all the weddings hopefully are back, will Thailand still be up there? I'm going to ask Pinki first.
David, yes, definitely, because we have a very good product. Our product is so good, and
why is it? What has made Thailand so good when we've got Bali, we've got Dubai, we've got other destinations hot on our heels? Why are we good?
Okay, I think we're better than the other destinations in terms of proximity. You know, you travel 2 hours, between 2 hours to 4 hours from any point of India to Thailand. So that's a big plus point, because, you know, in the weddings you have elderly people, you have all, and a lot of people can't travel for these long distances and all. So that makes a USP of our destination. The Thai hospitality is of course another one. Then also that the hotels are very reasonable. Like I said, that a lot of people in India, it's really expensive to hold a wedding, and you know, like the Thai hotels are so much less expensive. So this way people can also experience luxury, you know, at a very reasonable, and our locations, our beaches, I think all those things put together makes our destination very attractive. And it's like an extended domestic destination, you know, like I said, from, you know, traveling from Delhi to the south to Goa or Kerala and all is going to cost them much more, if not, you know, the same. So the whole thing works out to be a real good package. That's what I feel.
Please.
And I think we are there to stay. It's just a matter of time. It will be late, but not never.
Ranjeet, what's your perspective from Hilton Phuket Arcadia? You're a massive hotel. You've been used to these epic Indian weddings, and now Neha and Sally and Parthip are saying the future in the short term is going to be smaller. You might lose that market segment then if they're looking for a smaller venue. They're not going to go to the massive resorts. Do you think there's a future for Hilton, Phuket and Indian weddings?
Well, the one good thing for being a big hotel is we also have smaller spaces. But yes, you know, if weddings do become smaller, this does pose an issue in terms of for hotels which have that kind of venue in Phuket, whether it's the Hilton or the Angsana. And we're all looking at our market segments and trying to figure out, okay, if not 10 weddings a year, maybe it's going to be only 3 weddings a year, and look at what else we could do in getting business from. And like Pinki ma'am just said, you know, Thailand will still stay #1. And like I said earlier, you know, Europe, this is the one that's still affected with the virus. They're going to come back much later than I'm hoping Thailand would. There's already news coming out of Thailand opening up very soon, whether it's July or August. So once we are ready and our host country is ready, India, I think they're going to fly back into Thailand for sure.
Okay, great. I've got a quick question for Neha as we're wrapping up along with the panelists from Raji Sabawal. What would be the ideal size of the wedding post-COVID? What do you think will be the average size? Are you planning on 1,000, 2,000 coming down to 800? Or are you looking at very smaller weddings? What do you think will be the average, Neha?
If you don't talk about the ban, I feel that, you know, an average size is going to be 200 to 250. That is what I feel is going to be an ideal manageable size with all the restrictions and everything in place. But if you talk about really small wedding with the cap and everything, it could go down to as small as 50 to 100.
Great. Moving on to Parthip, Vipin Sharma mentioned that he saw a video going viral where guests were given meals in tiffins and venue sanitization was done. Do you think we'll see promotion of hotels and destinations very much focused on the health and hygiene to begin with to reassure families?
I don't think this health and hygiene will stay for too long. It's there right now. We're thinking about it, but later on, I have just one thing to add since you're talking of Thailand. Thailand rode the wave of the big fat Indian wedding. But in future, it will all be about how they tune themselves to what Indian families want. What will not change is that you will love to travel with people you love. And then if you are able to understand what Indian families want, then you will get them to your destination.
Okay, thank you, Parthip. And lastly, Sally, Ajay Kumar has said, what happens if we don't have Indian weddings coming back to Thailand quickly? What are you going to be doing? Where's the business if there's nothing for the rest of this year?
Actually, honestly, if you ask me, we're actually I think birthdays, anniversary, small celebrations are definitely going to come our way. I already have inquiry on those. I actually already have wedding inquiry for next year as well. So what am I doing? I'm doing a lot, actually. I'm actually starting a couple of things that I used to do cakes, novelty cakes. I'm a great painter, so I'm actually heading back to do something for myself and for just to keep myself busy. So I'll be doing something in the creative field for myself. And yes, I'm going to try and do improve within our teams what we can do in this after understanding what the pandemic is about.
We're running out of time and I need a yes or a no. Do you have weddings that have been postponed where you're going to be managing them in the future? Do you have postponed weddings? Great. So we're going to see you around for a few more years.
Yes, we already have the confirmed date for next year as well. So it's ready. We're ready.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, our 1 hour is up. I'd like to thank Phuket Hotel Association for powering this webinar. Sumi is somewhere in Phuket at C9 Hotel Works office, managing all the behind mechanics of this. Thank you to Pinki and the whole team at TAT India. You are doing a fantastic job and we wouldn't be where we are for the future and for the past success without you. I'm going along here on my images. Ranjeet down at the Hilton, keep doing what you're doing. Get those plans in place and get ready for the big and small weddings. Neha, we love you. You've been a great ambassador for Thailand. We can't wait to see you back with your weddings, albeit we know they're going to be smaller, around 200 to 250. Parthip, everybody has to go on to WeddingSutra.com, and I won't be planning a wedding just on your website. I'll be going to a wedding planner as well. Don't go into the creative industry. We need you in weddings. And that's it. I have to call this up for 1 hour. Thank you for joining with us. It's such an interesting topic.
Thank you so much.
Another webinar at some stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure interacting with all of you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.